Welcome to Catalyst. I'm Alex Schlater. Today I'm here with Gabrielle Kammerer, owner of Tomgirl Juice Co. In 2009, Gabrielle decided to change her focus from being a French pastry chef to creating fun, colorful, organic juices. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So you're the owner of Tomgirl Juice Co. Can you tell us a little about what that is and how you came about to where you are?
Yeah, I create beautiful rainbow colored juices, but my background is in culinary and in the arts, but specifically for the longest period of time in both photography in my youth, and then more recently in my 20s, I moved to Chicago to attend the French pastry school. And from that point, I moved into the world of chocolate, and a big conversation started happening in the chocolate world, which we're all very familiar with today, and that is that chocolate is a superfood, which is pretty spectacular. Well, wow, that's so exciting, but nothing is from here, meaning nothing on this list is from the United States or from my backyard, and nothing seems to be like necessarily abundant, and it felt interesting to me that we had to go out of our way to go get this big prize that
right.
and to feel healthy and really full of vitality. I was at a farmer's market and I saw this table full of rainbow tomatoes, because we all know that they don't just come in red, they come in orange and pink and dark red and purple and practically purple black and bright red and bright pink and dark pink. All these different tones,
right.
and tones within tones. And I looked at them and I asked myself, why doesn't tomato juice come in more colors?
Wow.
And that created a huge world for me visually, and gave me sort of a project to dive into. I loved working after work, but whenever I worked after work, it would be to like really dive into my creativity. And after a while, I just became exhausted getting behind chocolate, and I wanted to do something healthy, and I did want to start my own company, and I just didn't know what it would be. And I looked at tomatoes and I wondered, like, what if I created the first ever rainbow tomato juice company? And of course I told my mother, and she said, you can be whatever you want to be.
Awesome. It's great.
Which was sweet, but I could also tell on the other end, she was like, wow, she's really lost it. And I said, no, hear me out. And I went through like all the different colors that tomatoes come in. And then I also told her that obviously she knows this, but bringing it up again was a big deal, that there are heirloom varieties of tomatoes like Big Rainbow and Sunny Boy and Hillbilly. And
wow.
So I wondered, what is happening naturally that is healthy? What do we have in abundance? What do we have too much of that we don't know about, or that we have yet to recognize? And dandelion is one of those things, plantain leaf. There are all sorts of wild edibles in the forest. And then one thing really stuck out to me in particular, and that was the tomato. The one thing we look at the end of tomato growing season, you're giving them away. Tomato's a fruit, and the tomato has all these origins, and if I've learned anything from my culinary background, things that grow together, go together. I started making tomato fruit juice combinations, and it wasn't until I did that I was completely convinced that I needed to like go for it, because what I discovered was so delicious. Oh my goodness. So tomato black cherry, tomato strawberry, tomato nectarine, tomato grapefruit, tomato orange, tomato tangerine, tomato peach. just a great combination. It felt so good, and it feels so good. I crave it. I'm excited for tomato season to return.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, you're definitely very passionate about what you do, and you've done a lot of research into the products that you sell and make. So my curiosity is, where did you go from your idea and the research to getting a physical business built and putting it, everything on the market? How does that happen?
I love that you asked. I had very good friends, and what was happening, and my friends saw this. I had a very big red notebook and lots and lots and lots of notes and drawings and ideas and thoughts, and then I started a blog and I was taking pictures and writing and da-da-da-da-da, and I was just like this very internal being, and I was almost trapped inside of my head for a long time. And my friend Zach D'Amato, when we were in Chicago, he said, "Gabrielle, sell one juice." Okay, that's very different from that's a very different trajectory from what I was doing, which was just creative, thinking, what can I build with this idea? What can I play with? What's beautiful about it? What could I, I mean, that takes me in an entirely new direction. So that's 2011, and a month or 2 months later, I bought a one-way ticket from Chicago to Burlington, Vermont.
All right, you chose this spot, of course.
And there's a few reasons why Burlington inspired me and why I chose Burlington. I did have a friend here,
awesome,
who's also involved with this, who's now and has been involved with this idea, which is exciting to have a friend.
Very cool.
So that was the question, or that was the answer I got, and like very helpful information. And then another person told me, so I had shared a bunch of stuff, and he said, start as small as humanly possible. So I said, okay, sell one juice, start as small as humanly possible. I have those were my nuggets of advice. Just practice. So with that information, a year later, I met another girlfriend, Heather Irvine, a really great herbalist in the area. And she gave me another piece of advice, because I was still kind of, beating around the bush and had the idea and was getting closer, but still hadn't sold a juice yet. And she said, Gabrielle, you just gotta book it. Book it. Book whatever it is. Book that event, book that table, that space.
Just gotta go for it.
Get yourself booked somewhere. And then you have no choice but to show up and do something. And so with that advice, I booked an event actually just down in the South End behind Green Door Studio and behind Ribbon Studio and the South End Arts Center, like behind Arts Riot. And I sold a lot of juice one night in June 2012. And but my background in manufacturing and chocolate making led to this incredible surplus, because I sure know how to make one of something, but I'm a lot better at making 5 gallons of it.
That's true. That's a good point. I'm probably the opposite.
I made like gallons of juice to bring to this event. I was totally over prepared, which was great, but also like, okay, day 2, this is what I have left over. I had to do something with it. So I put it in mason jars, and I packed up this like Pepsi Cola crate that I had painted white, and I put my business card around each neck of the bottle, not around the belly band that you see today, and it just said Tomgirl. And I walked from my house on South Union Street to the dojo on Pine Street in the South End, and just sold juice, like person to person, down Church Street down Pine Street to people exiting Bikram yoga and just like really just put myself out there. I asked people in the parking lot at City Market.
That's
so
awesome.
Not saying that that's how every business should start, but I had to figure something out with my surplus and not just give up and say, okay, that's it. I had no choice but to keep going, which was almost a beautiful thing. So from that, I got involved with Somerville. I started to attract the right people to like create those next steps for business development. So, and by the end of the summer, I kind of shut down for the winter, but word had gotten out enough that people still were requesting juice or calling me in December, and then I bravely did a local tour in February the following year. I delivered juice to a friend, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is better than flowers. You need to do that. Juice is better than flowers. Awesome. That should be the whole thing. And so I got in contact with Localvore, and they were kind of just getting started at the time, so we did a whole promo called Juice is Greater Than Flowers. And next thing I know, I'm getting orders from Hotel Vermont. I'm getting orders from all over town, and the word is out. One day, when I was at work, of course, I said the name Tomgirl, and my friend Katie, who was sitting near me, screamed. And then I screamed. And I realized, and we both realized that that was it, that was the name.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which was an exciting way to find something out, just to hear her response, and then for me to, also respond with a lot of happiness. But I didn't know. I think what's more important than how I came up with the name, because that just happened, it's what I learned from the name and what I learned what it actually meant. Because Tomgirl could mean whatever you think it means. You could think like that I'm Tomgirl and I just grew up like a girl that liked different things or is more resilient, or I don't know, but it's not what it means at all. Or I guess it's not totally referring to me. It is referring to tomato, but it's referring more so to the fact that tomatoes come in all different size, shapes, and colors. And inevitably with starting a health food company or a health and wellness company, you're going to come up against self-image and people asking you questions on how to feel better, how to have more energy, how to have more vitality, how to get a glow in their skin, etc., how to kick that cold or boost their immune system, or how to like look better and feel better in just life and feel more confident. And health is deeply connected to that. And but I didn't want to create this like cookie cutter health and wellness image with a name like Tomgirl. And I was like, wait a minute, tomatoes come in all these different size, shapes, and colors, and so do people, men and women. And I think that was what became like a very moving piece to all of this, not just like, oh, I have a cool name. But I have a name that really describes what I'm trying to get at, which is creating a company that encourages you to be your best self and not necessarily a different version of you, but to be any size, shape, or color and to still feel beautiful inside and out.
Right, that's really awesome. And actually, I recently visited your store a couple days ago, got to see some of the products and how they're making it. If you could talk to a bit about how you go about making the juices and how that happens. You go from fruit form to juice form.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think from my culinary background, but even before I was working with, well, actually, even when I was working with chocolate, but even before I was working with chocolate, there's like a certain point in time where you have to stop whipping cream, right? otherwise it breaks.
Right.
Or you stop whipping egg whites, or you stop kneading dough, or you let something rest. There's a whole handling piece to French pastry and baking that is really important to the outcome of that bread or cream that you're ultimately going to enjoy. Even with ganache, you have to, like, with the cream and the chocolate, you have to integrate it at this like really correct temperature and pace so that it doesn't break and get like oily.
Right.
You have to like unite the fats and the water and create this emulsion.
Okay.
So, and you like, there's certain things that you don't add melted butter to. You add like cold butter or soft butter. So kind of with that sensitivity in mind, and then going into juice making, I wanted to handle everything very gently. So citrus fruits were handled like citrus fruits with the right equipment for the job, or the right equipment for that style of fruit.
Right.
And then secondly, with greens, I needed something sort of tight but also gentle that's really gonna connect with like a piece of spinach, but it's gonna be able to like press juice out of it. And I discovered I had a friend that was recovering from breast cancer at the time, and she spoke so highly of this Green Star juicer. And that just became my juicer of choice because I saw how it was healing her. And then I just grabbed another simple like Breville centrifugal juicer for root vegetables and apples, etc., just to kind of get the swing of things. And then I bought created some filter bags that were nice, that created enough of a filter but weren't overly extracting anything, so loose enough to let some character come through, but tight enough to give it a good clean finish. And when I make juice, I combine the work of 3 or 4 different pieces of machinery. It's not just one machine where I throw in a pineapple and then. And then there's certain things we don't even filter. So like something will go through a piece of equipment, don't filter it. Or it will go through a piece of equipment and it's filtered a certain way. And it really contributes to this texture and this mouthfeel. And then same thing when I'm building recipes with color, because going back to my background in French pastry, I want that sense of excitement. I want to create that excitement in you, the consumer, to connect with what you want and not just what you think you have to buy. There's a lot of gimmicky names for juice. You could go into any or most places and just see a whole bunch of names describing what they do. And yes, they all do amazing things. But I'd rather, I guess, as a culinary person, I want you to see the ingredients first and foremost. I want you to see the color first and foremost. I want you to make a decision from here. And oftentimes we're always making decisions from up here, right?
Yeah.
We're thinking about what we have to do or what we think we have to do. And I'm just trying to change that slightly and encourage people to make a decision from a different place in their body, which is their soul. And it's sort of deep, but really I just want you to make a decision with your body, to not think of it as an extension of you, but it is, I don't know. Basically, I love when people pick a color. We have a lot of different choices, so we say if you can't figure out what you like, then pick a color.
Right. Oh wow, that's really interesting. I mean, you definitely put a lot of thought into your business and what you want to stand for, and the theory. Like, this is definitely more than just selling things and making money. This is something that you really care about and you have a philosophy around.
Definitely.
Yes, and so I'm actually really curious through, because you didn't start as a business owner, and through being a business owner, what are some big key things you've learned, through the process of working with employees and figuring out, management of money and the whole working with customers? What are some big things you've learned?
Yeah, the big things that I've learned are that you don't have to be perfect at everything. As like the founder and CEO of this company, it is my job to create jobs. It is my job to create opportunities. I don't need to accomplish every single thing in the company. I'm more interested in adding to this environment, to Burlington, to Vermont. I'm more interested in creating jobs, and I think that that's my role, is to create jobs, to communicate what those jobs mean, and then we can find a meeting place within those job descriptions and figure out. I'm so aware of my weaknesses. I know what they are, but I know, but my weaknesses may be and are many people's strengths. So why try to be all things to all people when I can instead share this opportunity, create a job, create a place of well-being, not only for customers, but for people looking for fun types of employment, and create a great work environment where they are connecting with their strengths.
Wow. Yeah.
And with something, and with someone that wants to help them succeed.
Right. And then you culture that, or
Yeah.
create that environment, which is really great.
Big time.
And would you say, I mean, you kind of spoke to that a little bit, but one of the things I was wondering is what you think is a big key thing to have a successful business, and would you say it's kind of what you just mentioned is creating an environment?
Yeah, and I think it starts with your employees. I mean, if they don't feel beautiful and empowered and like they are appreciated and loved, then you're gonna miss the next most important thing, which is customer service. So if they don't feel comforted and happy in their work environment, they're not going to extend that sense of welcome and love to the person that comes into our space.
That's a good point.
So like, listen to your listen to whatever music, listen to entire albums, like have fun, listen to the news in the morning. If you want to, just turn it off at 8:30, and and like write really fun bios and send me your favorite picture of yourself. And yes, we work in a kitchen, but please dress like yourself. There's no uniform. Be yourself. Be
so cool.
Feel beautiful at work. It's oftentimes like, or at least for me, being in the kitchen, I always felt really like messy at work, or like I had to wear this like uniform, and then all of a sudden I felt like would feel stripped of my identity anytime I went into a work environment, and that's the last thing I want to do at Tomgirl, especially with people that are working there, because then I'm being a complete and total hypocrite. You work and be in here, and then customers, be your best self, chew your food, take your time, live this beautiful life. Then I'm telling both people different stories. So I want to treat my employees like customers. I want them to they actually all get paid 1 hour lunch breaks.
That's awesome.
Because I want them to, I'm gonna tell customers to do the same, that like really slow down and chew your food.
Yes.
Like that,
of course.
even just making that simple change in your life can like help with digestion and lower stress levels, which improve your body, mind, and spirit. So it's, how dare I say that to my customers and not share that same experience
with your employees.
With my staff? Yeah.
I'm sure they really love working there. It's a great environment.
It's what I mean. I do what I can, but we absolutely do what we can. But that's a big piece. Is just you know, walking the walk.
Yeah, definitely fair. Makes sense. And another thing I'm actually curious about is, have you thought about if you're gonna keep Tomgirl Juice in the family? If in the future you don't know, pass it on to siblings, possible children. I don't know. Do you plan on keeping the family? Or?
I would love. I think there are some pieces to Tomgirl that have yet to remain seen. That are that I will explore in the near future. But I think for now, I would love to have children, and I would love for Tomgirl to be a part of my life and my family's life. But I don't try to like hold on to things too much. I think I'm more interested in like zeroing in on a feeling and connecting with that feeling, and wherever that takes me, that's great.
That's fair. That makes sense. That's really great. And one of the last questions I have for you is, what advice would you have for young, because you're pretty young when you started, so people who are young and aspiring to create a business and may not necessarily have, like, you know, you think of people who get business degrees and they go into making businesses, and that definitely wasn't your path. So what would be your suggestion for someone starting and wanting to do that?
I would say read lots of books. I read Chanel's biography, or you know, a biography, and then I read Ben and Jerry's. I read how that whole thing started. I read like the history of the guy that started Tropicana. I learned about nectars. I read the origin story of the man that started Patagonia and how he ran his business. I read Richard Branson books. I read others that I'm not even, Trader Joe's. I read about how that got up and off the ground. I read about all these different, like, sort of obscure candy companies, like Mary Jane and, you know, whatever, I don't know, candy. I read the Hershey story. I read the Mars story. So I just even looking at how Henry Hershey started his company, how Forrest Mars started Mars bars. Those are crazy stories. And then all of a sudden, when you read those stories, it's back on that human, that very personal perspective, because you see Chanel and it's like this massive thing, or you see Hershey's and it's this massive thing. But Henry Hershey was really this one guy that like did not know how to make milk chocolate, so he bought cows. I'm kidding, not kidding.
I did not know that. Wow.
He didn't know how to make milk chocolate, so he bought cows. He just
went for the root of it.
He just went for it, right there. Forrest Mars, on the other hand, didn't know how to make chocolate, so he got a job at a chocolate factory in Europe and just went undercover and learned how to do it. So I was like, okay, well, those are two different ways of figuring things out.
You read a bunch of different businesses, very different, and seeing how they did it, and then taking for yourself what you want to do with yours and taking the skills, right?
Yeah, no, completely.
That's
and
awesome.
then the other two things, like the advice or the prompts that I received from my friends in Chicago were, sell one juice. Whatever your version of juice is, maybe you want to be, whatever it is, I don't know, what you want to sell yoga clothes, or you want to be a yoga teacher, like sell a yoga class, like just practice getting into character. Practice getting into character, because that's what you are becoming. You are becoming a new version of yourself in creating whatever company it is that you would love to develop. So practice being that person in different ways, whether it means waking up earlier or staying up later because you really want to be in music. I don't know. It's just start to get closer to that, and then read books by people that have walked out those same lines.
That makes sense. I mean, I think passion is definitely the key here.
Yeah. And I'm really now at this point feeling very comfortable and very supported.
That's great.
By my team. But 2012, full-time job. 2013, full-time job. 2014, full-time job. Still not sleeping. Only person at Tomgirl. Me plus one.
Yeah.
Open the store all by myself, one table, one light bulb. Certain things they could become physically exhausting.
Yes, fair enough, definitely.
And then there's like also loans, and once you get closer, but really practice your idea before you get into the financial, and before you start borrowing money. Just practice your idea with whatever you can, with whatever resources you can. I know Caitlin Pascucci would teach yoga class outside.
Okay,
she would just say, meet me for yoga. Yeah. And she called it rogue yoga. So like that to me is a great example of starting something with nothing. Just go for it. Just be a presence.
Awesome. Well, it's really great to learn about what is behind Tomgirl Juice. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me.
Thank you for having me.
It's really great. Thank you again for watching Catalyst. My name's Alex Schlater, and that was Gabrielle Kammerer, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.